trauma and crises and things, and it's just like overload. Like your body just can't handle that many things coming at you that you just start to just feel defeated, feel run down, like not get good sleep, and the fear that like it's never going to change.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Pulling Threads. Today, I'm very excited. We have guest Liz Bakshi, who is a licensed clinical social worker in private practice and a women's empowerment coach. Liz specializes in supporting mid-career professional mothers who are ready to create a better work-life balance and get unstuck. Liz has 18 years of experience and has helped women of all ages navigate anxieties and stressors of career and life transitions. And Liz, I love that you describe yourself as your own ideal client. You were
Right.
working in a nonprofit kind of administrative role, feeling really burnt out and disconnected from your family, but you were really scared to make a big change. And so that lived experience is really the core of the work, the coaching work that you're doing now.
Yes.
So tell me more about that. Walk me through what your life looked like when you were working in that nonprofit and what was kind of happening beneath the surface for you.
So just hi, Leslie. So nice to be here with you. Thank you for the opportunity to talk with you. So yeah, I make a point to share that I am my own client in that when I was working, I licensed clinical social worker. I started off as a social worker in the child welfare world. So I worked at a foster care agency in New York City.
Mhm.
And in administration, I loved it. There was so much of like, because I grew up in that agency, that I really enjoyed the clients and the clients I work with, especially the staff, that were like a little family, which is always a toxic trait. But truly, like, I really felt very supported for a long time. And then I became the director of a program. And shortly after, COVID hit. So at that time when COVID shut the world down, my son was 3 or turning 3 or had just turned 3. I'm sorry. So it was just a lot
Mhm.
of stuff and feeling like I'm dealing with people in this very like crisis driven situation and having to work like all hours and feeling like my son was just beyond my door. I was living in an apartment in New York City at the time and just feeling like I couldn't be there with him. And that really just felt so what's the word I want to like there's so many words that are coming to my head. I don't want to be dramatic, but just like sad, right? Like at
Yeah,
the end of the day,
yeah,
but just sad to feel like he was waiting for me or that I would put him to sleep and then want to get back into my job. And it was feeling very disconnected from my job too, because we weren't in the office. It was just a scary time and just really feeling like is not sustainable to
mhm,
have this much pressure on me. And then also feeling like I'm not showing up for my family.
yeah. So it was kind of sudden then. Had there been issues before COVID, or was it really the accumulation of like all of this stress in
Yeah.
during the COVID time?
Yeah, so I think, I had my son in 2016 and I knew that it was going to be different because I was watching families be disconnected from their children and
Yeah.
in a lot of ways like for good reason. There was abusive situations, neglectful situations. So to be in that world and not be a parent is one thing, and then becoming a parent, and I tend to be a more empathetic, like highly sensitive person. So I think once I had my son, it became another level to realize that I don't know how people did it, like how you deal with, or how you make the choices that you make to get into that situation,
Right.
right?
Right.
So from 2016, I did start to feel a shift of like, I don't know if I can do this forever. And so many women, specifically women that have children, are like veterans in the field. And I give them so much credit for being able to kind of like soldier on through it all. For me, that was not something that was sustainable. So
Yeah.
it was like a slow burn, like leading into COVID. And then COVID really blew the lid off of it, of really just feeling like critical things were happening, which
Yeah.
we can get more into later, like depending on like the questions that come up. But just to say like that I felt like I wasn't getting the support. I was supposed to be supporting a whole cohort of social workers and supervisors. And then I felt like I wasn't getting supported and then I wasn't giving enough of support to them and feeling so much invested in that And
Yeah.
then there's children involved, there's lives involved, there's people at stake, and then there's a little human outside my door that, like, just wants to hang out and watch a TV show or something, and I felt like, it was just a lot of, like, building frustration and really feeling unsupported.
And years of witnessing the impact of that very thing you were experiencing on other people who you
Sure.
support. And you could see the trajectory like, okay, I
Yeah,
can see what's happened to their family. And now I
yeah,
have a family, and I don't want that to
yeah,
happen to my family. I think that, as therapists and people who support others, like we do witness a lot. I
absolutely.
went to therapy school like later in life. This is my third
Yeah.
career.
Oh,
If
amazing.
I could go back and redo 0 to 3 from my children with the knowledge I have now about how important and how many attachment issues can evolve if you aren't present, I would change everything about that time for them. So I'm sure you being in the field, you already have the education, you already have the knowledge that I think so many people are missing. Like, would we have, sorry, I don't want to go down a totally different tangent here, but
No,
when
tell me.
we do pregnancy classes or birthing classes, I don't
Mhm.
understand why there isn't a therapist there or a support
Right,
person or a social worker giving people an education about what we know about attachment and how important 0 to 3
right,
is. Nobody knows, right? Like
right.
we are starting to understand, I think, as a society because we now have so much more access to mental health education online and on social media, and people
Sure.
understand like a secure, avoidant, anxious attachment a little bit better. I think I'm
Yeah,
living in it and I'm surrounded by it. So I, of course, have a lot of exposure.
yeah,
But when you understand how those things evolve and how they become, you do not want that to happen to your child. I went to law
sure.
school while my daughter, I was in law school. She was 3 weeks old when I went back from summer
Wow.
break, and I was in my last year, and I was in a law MHA program. I had 21 credit hours in 2 graduate programs and a baby. And my husband moved to Florida a year ahead of me, so I was by myself. So looking back at that, I'm like, oh my God. Like, oh my God.
Wow, that
Like,
is
what?
major.
Yeah. Yeah. And so you think about she was sitting in a little carrier next to me while I was studying and preparing for exams, and my stress level was high while I was pregnant with her. So,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah, like what you were witnessing
yeah,
in your work and what you already understood about child development put you in this place of overwhelm, knowing
yeah.
your child was on the other side of the door wanting you.
Mhm.
And
Yeah,
so I think so many people, I'm going to say parents, because men experience this too.
of course. Absolutely, yeah.
I tend to always talk about women, but men
I know,
experience this too.
sure.
But so many people go through this. And even if they
Mhm,
don't understand the impact, there is a feeling of just how can I be everywhere for everyone? So
mhm.
with burnout, when you talk a lot about
Yeah,
burnout, and it's a word we hear a lot, but what do
right.
you like? What does it actually feel like from the inside, especially when you're a mother trying to hold everything together?
Yeah. What does it feel like from the inside? I mean, I would say that it's just a feeling of defeat, right? Like, I think for me personally, it felt just like to know that I was in the situation I was in and not and I mean, listen, like, we were blessed, like, by no means am I sitting here, like, I was in the trenches, like, going through it, like, we had a stable situation, but just to feel like I was really feeling stuck and, like, ready for a move and just hesitating on what that move would look like or would people be disappointed in me, but, like, real time processing
Yeah.
trauma and crises and things, and it's just, like, overload, like, your body just can't handle that many things coming at you that you just start to just feel defeated, feel run down, like not get good sleep. And the and the fear that like it's never going to change. And like, what do you do when you just feel like this is it? And how do I put on a happy face for my son and for everybody around me that like things are easy when they're truly not? But it's like, I don't want to be the of the group, would see friends, especially well, COVID, I guess, was another like height diff
Right.
bubble. You're in this like suspended reality of like you're really not seeing people. So then you have the isolation factor of it all and just trying to make connections with people. So that was a tough time for me. And I think for most and to take it out of me, burnout for a lot of moms from what I've experienced or parents in general are just feeling like you can't catch up. Like there's always like another thing.
Yeah.
So even if you wanted to make a change, it just feels like I don't have the bandwidth because my brain can't process like future thinking because I'm trying to survive like
Right.
right now.
Right. How do you think that shows up different for professional, like high functioning professional mothers in particular compared to other
Yeah.
people? Do you see a difference?
Yeah, for sure. I would say like it's all hard. Parenthood is just hard in general. And then when you try to have a career for yourself, I see that a lot with my clients of just they've rightfully so taken pride a majority of the time in like getting the momentum and the trajectory of having the career that they wanted and going
Mhm.
for the promotion or going for the next thing that's going to lead them like that looks good on their resume. And so when you have that level of ambition and that level of motivation to keep going and then you have this person, I guess it's like when it comes to burnout for working mothers, it's because you spend typically, I don't want to generalize, they tend to be like high achieving to their detriment. So almost like type A
Yeah.
perfectionists that are used to delivering at like quality or excellence level. And then if there is something rightfully so that's distracting, which is there's appointments or performances, that it's almost like they're made to feel like, "Oh, what's going on?" Like, you're not like, as if they're less than now, like something that they're underperforming at work, and I think it's harder to feel like you're trying to meet the needs of everyone around you
Yep.
and what that does to you because 'cause you're kind of being put on the back burner for the sake of all the other stakeholders.
Right. And I think that we don't talk a lot about when someone is this very high performing person at work.
Mm,
It's in them, it's ingrained in them to be a high performing
yeah,
person. Therefore, they also want to be a high performing parent and a high performing spouse. So
yeah,
it's really hard because a lot of times, if work is going great, things might not be
mhm,
so good with the kids or with their partner.
right,
And
right,
so there's always this feeling of I'm failing somewhere, right? Like if I'm
yeah,
giving this thing 100%, I don't have enough gas left to give everyone
yeah,
else. But it's in my being, right? Like I'm wired to be
yeah,
the best at everything I do.
yeah,
So, and there's tons of guilt, right?
right. Oh,
So I'm
100%.
really long
Yeah,
hours right now, starting up businesses and getting things up and running,
yeah,
as I know you are too. And that means like I had to get an office away from home because there was too much distraction at home. And my kids were used to me being home with them for 10 years. So,
of
especially my
course.
youngest, like he really struggles to not come into my office when I'm home. So some
Mhm.
nights, like they're feeding themselves and they're just now, so they can.
Yeah,
There's
right,
still guilt. I was telling my boyfriend, I just feel really guilty.
right,
I'm really, really excited about everything I'm doing, and I'm so happy, and
yeah,
I'm to be career driven. So those
right,
10 years of not having it felt kind of miserable, and now this feels really good. But the quality time with my kids is really hard, and they are teenagers, so they don't necessarily even want it. But my
you feel
year-old
it,
and I
right,
were talking, and he said, "Mom, it's just so different. They're coming up so differently because he was a competitive soccer player. So until he graduated from high school, we were traveling and we were together every weekend for his soccer games.
yeah,
And my younger two don't have that. Like One is
Yeah.
an actress, so I'm not there. I'm not even taking her. Like it's happening at
Oh,
school.
wow.
And
Yeah.
Jack is a gamer, so and an
Right.
athlete, but it's not competitive like Kobe was. So
Yeah, sure.
there's so much, and I
So much.
think balance is nearly impossible.
Right.
So you talk about self-doubt as kind of one of
Yeah.
your core focus areas, and I'm sure you can hear that in me as I'm talking. Like, am I
No, for
doing the
sure. I
right
get
thing?
right.
Am I causing harm in someone else by giving myself this opportunity to focus on
Sure.
something that I feel so driven and so passionate about? Or am I inspiring? Like, you got to
Right.
look at it. What does self-doubt sound like for women you work with? What stories are they telling you?
Yeah. I mean, your experience is so common too. And I think that's like it's nice to know that more people are talking about it, that like idea of like work-life balance or that trope of work like you don't have a family and like be show up for your family like you don't work. That society has really created this dynamic. I mean, I know I can go down a whole rabbit hole, but basically, like the idea of you have to be goal oriented and driven in your job so you can be successful and have the life that you're comfortable with. But you also have to be the house manager and the parent and the therapist and the emotional support. And then I'm just talking about like the kids, like your husband or significant other, and both ways, like husband and wife of just and
Yeah,
significant others, partnerships of it all is just making sure there's so many touch points. And then it's like, what's left for them at the end of the day? What's left for me as a mom, as a woman?
right.
I'm not just defining yourself as just a mom, right?
Yep.
So I think I've lost your question in all of my plots, but just to say the self-doubt, like I can say for myself, and what has come up in other conversations is that you know that like you need a change for your mental health. And
Mhm.
then well, what if it doesn't work out? And
Right.
like, I'm going to make this leap of faith and I'm going to shift my whole salary range, or I'm going to shift my whole position, or I'm going to go from working remotely to working in office, and like everything's going to be different and I'm going to ruin it all for everybody. Like there's this level of like the you tell yourself
Yeah.
that keeps like, cuz change your body, like as I'm sure you are very well aware, your body like processes change or like something anxiety inducing as like, oh, you're going to die. Like it's all going to go badly. And it's not that level of intensity, but like your nervous system like reads it the same way. Right.
Right.
So for me, when I was thinking about changing my job, my intention was like, I know it's better for my family, but like I've built such a connection with all of these people. I don't want to lose all of that. I don't want to start over. And
Yeah.
I think for some women that are like, I know that this job, even if it's not like high professional, like C suite level people, but even just like mid range professionals that are like, I don't want to do this work anymore, but I only went to college for like this thing. And like, I don't know, I really want to do this other thing, but like, I don't know if they would accept me in that world. And like, how do I get my foot in the door? And it's, maybe I'm not as good as I think I am at things. And really just that like negative self-talk, really, right? Of
Yeah.
just like finding all the ways to play down like what could be great for you because there's so much uncertainty in the unknown.
Yeah. Yeah. That my next question was going to be what keeps women stuck, but that's it.
Yeah.
It's just that negative
No, that's
self-talk and the
right.
belief. I do think that there are differences in generation. So would technically be Gen X. I'm not sure what you are, but
Mhm.
I think that are you a millennial?
I am. Yeah, I'm a millennial, an elder millennial, I guess you would say.
So, yeah, and I guess I'm a young Gen X, but for us, we're of the mindset that like join a company and you work there forever. And so there's this like
Yes.
high of loyalty. And
Yes. Absolutely.
with that comes some shame or worry, concern about starting off on your own or doing something different. And yet we kind of watch in the world like do entrepreneurship really well and that sounds pretty
Right.
good. But there
Yeah.
is,
Yeah,
I
totally.
would say the negative self-talk, a lot of it is programmed, right? So this is a
Yeah.
thread, this pulling threads, like this is a thread we have to
Yeah.
pull and
Right.
say no, though that was fine for our parents, like pensions were a thing
Mhm.
and all of that. But that's not necessarily the world we live in anymore. And people can
Right.
make it on their own, even though it is scary.
Yeah.
Risk, I guess, is something we were not taught to take. Like, do not take a risk.
Yeah.
Whereas
Right.
do you think that for your generation that it's a little more acceptable to take risk and make big changes?
Yeah, but I do think that we had the same kind of overlapping generation of parents
Mhm.
that it was frowned upon to change jobs frequently. Like, I know so many clients or even, like, friends of mine that are like, "Oh, like, I haven't been at my job for, like, a year yet,
Yeah.
so I need to, like, put in my time and then see." Whereas I feel like my younger clients that are more like Gen Z are hopping everywhere. Like, they're just making their exits if what suits them. Because I think there is also, like, the security and maybe that's just, like, the previous generation too of, like and everybody is different. There's so many people that in both of our generations that just are like, "It'll all figure itself out," and I give so much credit to, like, all of those
Right.
women that are just like,
Right.
"Let's do it," and, like, see where the chips fall.
Yeah.
For, like, the people that we encounter, speaking for the both of us, because I think, especially for women that have been divorced, like, it's like you truly are forced to start over. Like, you need to make a change for yourself for the benefit of your children, and then it's like you don't have a choice in, like, what your job looks like or what your schedule looks like. You
Yes.
have to make it work for you guys, right?
Yep.
So that
Yeah.
idea that for those people that struggle with like making a change, and sometimes it's not, it's just like the idea of like it's gonna be the worst thing ever. It's like just maybe it just has to be saying the hard thing out loud, like asking for more support, and then maybe it could look different. I think so much of us build up like if I make a change, like everything's gonna fall apart. It's like, but what if just like, okay, like what if it's not everything the worst that it could be, you
Yeah.
know?
I love that saying, what if things work out? What if they
Right.
work out? Like, just
Right.
let's think that. I've definitely, I think in a lot of my work in my own therapy, have developed like a much bigger trust muscle for the universe and saying, okay, there's a reason I'm doing this. There's a reason why things are unfolding the way they are. And
Right.
I'm just going to go ahead and trust. But I have a little bit of a runway in my divorce settlement. Like I given a runway. Not everyone is given
Okay.
that. So that's a totally
Right.
different level of like financial survival mode almost,
Yeah,
where
absolutely.
it's even much more difficult to leave a work environment that is unhealthy when you are the primary breadwinner and either yourself
Mhm.
or yourself and your children are depending on that. Like it's really hard, I think, to walk
Yeah,
away. But even for people who have a safety net of some sort, it's just psychologically difficult to
yeah,
take a big risk. And
right.
so you do both therapy and coaching, right?
I do.
In this situation, if you don't mind, it would
Mhm.
be really, I think, interesting for listeners to understand the difference between if someone came
Sure.
to you for therapy for this kind of situation versus
Right.
coaching. Is there a difference? And I guess I would like to talk about the benefits of each because you are
Sure.
really playing both roles.
Yeah. I try my best to keep it super separate when it comes to coaching because I think it is a slippery slope. I mean, it is the same skills, but like really
Mhm.
trying when it comes to coaching to be very specific on like we're here to address like this thing, knowing full well that like there are pieces that play into it that have led you to this, the way that you treat yourself, the way that you talk to yourself, but taking it as that you are here for this objective. And then at the end of 12 weeks or at the end of 6 months, depending on your pacing, that you will have come out the other side feeling more confident in like what comes next for you. With therapy, if that was the issue, what we're talking about is a lot more intertwined in family dynamics and like relational trauma that might have
Mhm.
come up. And sometimes it's not trauma. It's just like I'm overwhelmed by like all of the decisions that I have to make.
Yeah.
And maybe some of those people are like, don't need like a full year of therapy, but at least in the short term, they want to feel like they're processing through some of the historical stuff that led to this moment in time and how to move through it. But I'm sorry, therapy is, I was gonna say trauma is right. Like a lot of
Right.
times people end up seeking out therapy because there is like an underlying level of trauma that feels like was not addressed or is hard to talk about. And I think that coaching has blown up so much in the years. I feel very naive. It's like it feels like it's brand new, but I know it's been around for a long time. Like the whole idea of life coaching, there is a sense of with the work that I know you do and with the work that I'm trying to do, it's almost taking this stigma out of like needing help. And as much as all of us can say that everybody could benefit from therapy, that some people still feel like, well, I'm not crazy, God for like, so to speak, like quote unquote. I would never say that to anyone. Like, you don't have to be like mentally unwell or like institutionalized to like need someone to talk to.
Yep.
But the idea of coaching is like, well, I know that I can like generally move through my day, but I just know that I'm feeling stuck in this one space of my life. So how do I move from point A to point B? And I think that helps people feel, man or woman, feel like I'm working through something with a very clear outcome, whereas therapy can feel a little bit more like, well, I came to you for this, but now we're unpacking something that happened with my brother just when I was younger. And now it's all coming together into like one
Right.
big processing journey.
Yes, I would say that in my experience, like the therapy ends up being so much more processing and there's a deeper dive, even though that can be part of the coaching.
Yeah.
With coaching, there's a goal, and
Yeah.
you might have to do a little bit of digging to figure out why the maybe a block or something. But there is so much coaching in therapy, and
Yeah.
it's really hard. It's really hard to separate them. And so many coaches are doing therapeutic things now. So
Yeah.
I think that the reason I asked that question is I think that people are confused and they don't know how to set their expectations
Sure.
when I see this all the time in my practice because it is very holistic. And
Sure.
in my coaching program, we are talking a lot about nervous systems and all of these things.
Yeah.
We're not digging into abuse and we're not doing EMDR. We're not doing
Right.
as much IFS, although it's intertwined into my
Mhm.
coaching practice. But it's really hard for people to figure out which thing that they need. And so
Yeah.
how do you decide, like if a client came to you and said, I don't know if I need to be in your coaching program or if I need to be in your therapy practice, are there any things that you can tell the audience like that would help you decide which which to put them in?
Yeah. With therapy, I think at the core of it, it does stem from like a mental health diagnosis. Like, I'm going to see you because you've shared that you have different experiences and symptoms that are related to anxiety,
Right.
depression, post traumatic stress. Like, there is a level of like the medical aspect of it all, as much as it's mental health is very different than going to a doctor. But at the same time, you're processing through things that have really taken a toll on your body
Yeah.
and then affected how you think about things. And then I think for coaching, so I guess I should say that even if it is like something as mild as like an adjustment disorder, that
Hmm.
there's just something about going to therapy that feels like it's a lot more than just that's where I see my clients, right? Like it's more than just like a one and done. Like
Yep.
I'm struggling with getting a new job. I'm struggling with moving to a new city.
Yep.
And then I think I'm done here. So you know what I mean? Like we
Right.
end up kind of getting into different things. And there are
Yeah.
those few that are just like, I think I've what I needed out of this. And that's lovely. And I love that for them.
Yeah.
And then I think with coaching, I would say that, of course, like you mentioned, that there is, you can't help but intertwine, especially something like self doubt. Like, what were the messages being told to you? Like, what is the mindset? And like, whose like narrative? Is that your voice? Is that someone
Right.
else telling you something?
Right.
But trying to not sit in that with them for longer than enough to acknowledge it,
Yep.
which I think I still struggle with of being like, oh, like, tell me more. And I really, for
It's
my own
so hard.
boundaries, need to be like,
Right.
so, okay, so we know this is where it came from. Like, how do we move? Like, how do we shift your mindset? Like,
Yeah.
how can we put boundaries in place to have it start to look different for you? Right. And really knowing what the intention and the goal is, we're going to have you feel differently about this life change that you're about to make.
Right.
or not, or feel confident in saying that, like, not gonna make a life change right now, and I'm okay with that because I know that I have ABC in place to make it make sense for what it is.
Right, right. They might come to you and say, I'm struggling with this decision, and then the ability to move through whatever I need to move through once I make the decision. So, as their coach, you're going to get them through the process of making the decision and then help them transition if there is a transition
Right,
rather than, oh, let's do a deeper dive
yeah,
on where's all this self-doubt coming from? Like, it is a different
right,
approach. I have a really great friend who is an amazing coach. She was coaching in Australia and then in Singapore, and
oh,
she's been
cool.
doing it for 8 years. So she did it before it became like a thing.
Yeah,
And
amazing.
she really helped me understand this so much more clearly and how it's why we can package a coaching program. Whereas with therapy, you don't know how long it's
Yeah,
going to take for people to better or to figure things out. I personally
right,
am never going to not be in therapy. Like my whole life, I'm probably going to be in therapy. There's always going to be something to work on or to talk
sure,
through. But with
of course.
coaching, it just the approach of this is more goal oriented. So in
Yes,
6 weeks, 8 weeks, 12 weeks, whatever, this
yeah,
is what we're going to do. And each week,
yeah,
we're going to work on one specific thing that helps get you closer to that goal. So for mothers, I think could be really powerful. Mothers who are working and want to get out of a work environment or make a change in their work environment that makes
right,
life more balanced.
right,
Because we haven't even talked about what I consider one of, if not the most important thing that these families, mothers, fathers are working through, which is the lack of self care. So many mothers put themselves last.
yes.
And I did like a little timeline. I turned 50 this past weekend and I made
Oh, yes.
pictures from
Yeah,
40 to 50 because that decade of my life was so transformative. Like,
yeah,
I don't even recognize that person at 40.
right,
And I was working on a timeline for a group of women that I'm a part of to show them what was happening behind the scenes every year. And when I wrote in the modalities of care that started at 43 and just kept ramping up, you can
awesome,
look
yeah,
you can look at the year and what I wrote I was doing at that point in time, like adding mindfulness-based stress reduction, adding sauna, adding red light, adding Pilates. You can see, and those are just kind of physical self-care things. Adding
for
in
sure.
therapy started in when I was 43, and there's such a dramatic shift from 42 to 43, and then it
Mm,
just keeps getting better. So you can physically
yeah,
see a change in me based on the mental health work I was doing, the
right,
meditation, adding mindfulness to my life, and those things opened up space for me to learn about sauna and red light and cold plunge and
mhm,
walking by the water every day.
yeah,
Like, so transformative. So I want you to tell me what you think like
yeah,
real self-care looks like. Like, we're not
yeah,
talking about self-help books or
right,
taking a bubble bath, but we might be
right,
looking at something like sitting in the car for 5 minutes and meditating before you walk into the house. So, what do you see being the like really impactful for people?
yeah. So I would say just giving yourself that space to right. So I have a few different um tools or little guides that I have in my free Facebook group that I would promote to like other working moms or other women that are in similar circumstances. And I'm sure they would apply to men too if that was their energy. But for the purpose of this conversation, talking about really self care as far as prioritizing ourselves is just giving yourself space to actually just be with yourself.
Yeah.
So I was thinking about it coming into today that there was something I came up with around like micro habits, right? So even if it's just setting an intention, like right when you wake up, that like I'm not gonna try to be perfect today. Like I can't,
Yeah.
if I can't do all the things, like that's okay.
Yeah.
Like really giving yourself permission to just let things play out the way that they're going to, or taking little breaks between the things you do. So if you are someone that's in office, making sure you almost like set a timer, like I'm going to do work from 9:30 to 11:30 and then I'm going to get up and I'm going to go get a cup of coffee. Because I
Mhm.
think so much, I know even for myself when I was working at the agency that I was eating at my desk and wasn't sending emails. I was having people in my office like talking about things and processing through that and then I was running to a meeting and just like you could stack if you let people in, like and I don't and obviously, like, I loved all of those things a lot of the time, but it's like, if you don't say, like, "I need a minute," people will take those minutes from
Yeah.
you, right?
Yeah.
So, just giving yourself this to say, like, "Hey, I'm gonna go into the take" get a quick coffee or, I don't know, go grab a smoothie, and then and take your time doing that.
Yeah.
Or if it's really saying what you need and asking for help, because I think so much of and maybe that's just my own algorithm and I would love to hear from you, Leslie, but there is a sense of in a heterosexual relationship and like in a partnership that's male and female, there is a sense of well, the mom's expected to do everything and the husband, the significant other that's male is just shows up and it's like no like I could actually use some help with this so like can you do bedtime routine so I can make sure to like finish this book that I was trying to go to can you I know you're really stressed from work like I'm just gonna run out to like meet my girlfriend and I'll be back like little things where it's just like it's so simple and yet somehow there's something about the way that like women's brains have evolved that it's like asking for even like a basic thing feels like you're somehow betraying the family dynamic or it's like oh like I should be the one doing bedtime routine because I was working a full day it's like no like you're allowed to share the load like you're allowed to say like hey can you handle this I just want to go take care of this I don't know, just like, I don't know, say anything. Like, I just want to go sit
Yeah.
down. Like, I really just want
Yeah.
to go lay down and rest for a second. And maybe you're journaling or maybe you're just scrolling on your phone. But at that point, it becomes so all of this to say that like self-care in this context really
Yep.
looks like just giving yourself permission to like take that time back and really not feeling apologetic about it, which
Yeah.
I struggle with myself of just like, oh, like I hear them like crying. Should I go? I have like little ones. I have a 9-year-old and a 3-year-old. So my 3-year-old is very demanding of my time.
Yeah.
And it's like, you're good. Like you're going to be okay.
Right.
I will come back. Dad's here. Like,
Right.
please,
Right.
be right back.
Yeah, I think that is such an important point because we do put so much on ourselves, first of all.
Right.
But
Yeah.
I think from a relationship standpoint, we resent when we don't set boundaries like that and we don't ask for what we
Right.
need. We
Right.
don't ask, or we do ask and we don't get it. Those are two different situations. But when we
Sure.
don't ask because we've put all this pressure on ourselves to be
Right.
everything, then we resent the other person
Yeah.
and it becomes a
100.
rupture very
Yes.
quickly. And once you set the expectations in the relationship, it's hard to undo that, but it's not
Yeah.
impossible. So it's
Right.
learning to ask for what we want and what we need and really
Yeah.
sticking with that. And
Yeah.
hopefully, people have a partner or a spouse who see that and honor it and will step in. I I don't have anybody at home and my kids are with me pretty much all the time. So it is different, but they are
Yeah.
I think that it when your kids are young, like yours are really young and
Mhm.
they don't have the ability to stay home alone or anything,
Yeah.
right? Like, you
Right.
need to be
Right.
there with them.
Yeah.
That's a really rough time. When I looked back at my picture, I thought, okay, I had a very different set of children. Like my was leaving for college when I turned
Sure.
40, which and he
Wow.
had been kind of parentified and was almost like a second parent to my little kids because my ex-husband was gone all the time for work. So I
Okay.
lost my co-parent, to be honest, at
Yeah.
40, or I knew I was about to lose him when that
Yeah,
picture
of
was
course.
taken. My youngest was about to turn 4, and then my middle, let's see, was 6. 6.
Okay.
So rough, like really rough times, like
Yeah.
managing one child's senior year, which is a lot. And so,
And little elementary,
yeah.
preschool. Yeah.
So there are times when all this that we're talking about are harder. And when
I'm sure.
the kids are little and you have more than one. So when my oldest was little, it was easy. He went everywhere with me. I had 13 years of him, just him.
Yeah.
And with just one, it's like way easier. You add that second kid and you're like, whoa. But
No, for
back
sure.
to asking for what you need, I think asking for what you need and getting help when you need it, and doing so, like you said, without any guilt or hesitancy, just
Yeah.
taking space. One thing that I have found and that I experienced was that my career aspirations were pretty high. So
Yeah.
I was a speech pathologist first, and I worked as a brain injury therapist in a pretty big academic medical center. I
Oh,
left
amazing.
there knowing that I wanted to get a higher degree and
Yeah.
then ended up going to law school and getting a master's in health administration, which in hindsight wasn't really a perfect fit, but it's worked out really well. Like when we talk
Yeah,
about
sure.
universe taking over, I definitely see now, like working with people with a different type of trauma, but trauma and brain injury, then going into law and getting an
Yeah.
MBA, and then not really practicing because I for a year before we then lost a baby. We wanted another one. There was
Yeah.
too much. Had moved away from family and friends. We're living someplace where we had no support, and my husband's career was really taking off. So I decided to
Okay.
stay home. At that point, like the light in me really diminished, not because I didn't love being a mom, but I wasn't there. That never suited me, right? Like I never wanted.
Like being a stay-at-home parent, right.
Right. Some people want that. I have a really dear friend, and
Right.
it's literally what all she's ever wanted, and I love that for
Yeah,
her. But for
sure.
me, like my career was so tied into my identity, and my career
Yeah.
aspirations were really big. And so then to
Yeah.
just lose that. But I
Yeah,
think
of
that
course.
there's like this really big tension between ambition and
Right.
motherhood. And
Right.
so for me, that window of time, what my self-care looked like was photography. So I dug into photography. I started taking courses. I found a creative side, which also has now turned out to be
Yeah,
really,
how amazing how it all kind of flows into each other.
because I'm
Wow.
not afraid of, I do the podcasting for therapists and coaches, and I'm not afraid of the tech or the cameras and my lighting. And
Yeah.
so I understand. And my son and I were talking the other day. He goes, "It's really incredible how everything fell into place, Mom." So you never know. But
Yeah.
if women are experiencing this really huge tension, and their partner or their spouse has a really demanding job, and they have high ambition, and they want to be a mom, how do
Yeah.
you help people hold space for everything? And do you think it's possible for people to feel like they're giving enough to every area at once?
Right. I know, it's so tough. It
You don't
really
have to
is.
answer. I don't know that
I know
I don't know
there
if the
is,
answer
right.
is really what people want to hear.
No, for sure. I mean, I've seen a lot in just like the research of it all that people really do feel like work balance is not a real thing when you have, and maybe it's one thing when you're like a single person like moving through the world of like having your job and then making time for yourself, but when
Yeah.
you have a significant other, when you have a family as in children, but you also have I think we're in the generation, so I'm 41, so I'm a little bit younger, but just to say, like, we're the 2 of us, I would imagine, are in a generation of parents are aging, right?
Yeah.
So now you're not only parenting your children, but you're making sure your, like, adults in your life that were always, like, were good, they were set, you didn't have to worry about them. You're starting to wonder, like, "Are you okay? Like, is
Yep.
everything good?" So that's been a lot of my clients too, of seeing that, like, they're trying to get themselves situated, but then they have their children, and then they have parents that are struggling with different medical issues, and it's a lot. So to have ambition and be a mom, I think what I always try to say is, like, 2 things can be true at the same time. Like, you can want a career for yourself and still be a good mom. And I think kinda like what you mentioned is, like, you're an example, like, you're a model for how to manage yourself, and I think so many of my clients come to the point where we're talking, like, my client and I are talking because they might feel like they're not showing up as their best version of themselves for their kids. Like,
Yeah.
if they're short-tempered, or if they don't have any patience, or if they're so exhausted at the end of the day because they worked like a night shift, if they're a doctor in, like, the profession, that, all that kind of stuff.
Yep.
There's so many different scenarios. And I think what keeps showing up is that guilt of, I know I love my job and I want my family to understand that. And also, it's too much. So maybe people even are like, I know I love my job, but I also know that this is not sustainable for what is going to be for the good of my family. So maybe I need to move to part-time work. Maybe I need to move to being a stay-at-home mom, if only to get my bearings a little bit, catch my breath.
Yeah.
And I guess just to say, just a quick note, just thinking before I lose the train of thought because it will leave my brain. When you were mentioning about your moving to Florida and being away from family, like, I think when I was saying, like, asking for support, like, that also does mean the people around you, and I think a huge thing that people stop themselves from doing what they know deep down is right, is like, "Well, it's only me and my significant other, it's only me and my partner, like, if
Yeah.
I do this, then I'm risking the situation for my family," or, like, the childcare situation, or, like,
Right.
"Is your parents available? Do you have a support system around you?"
Yep.
And when you do have a support system, and I think so many people, you see a difference in
Yep.
people that have, like, parents readily available, siblings around, that it's easy, quote unquote, to make a change because there's a lot of hands. There's, like,
Right.
the village is there, so to
Yep.
speak.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I can say now I've created a village, right? But when I first got here, it was
Yeah,
horrible to come into two people essentially starting their careers, one in medicine, one in law, with a 13-year-old, a 1-year-old wanting another baby, like, and no support system, not knowing anyone, not even having a
right,
support system in the school. And I think that it's important when we work with clients to point out where their support systems are. Like, I'm, after my divorce, I manifested my boyfriend and my house. My
okay,
house sits on a street of new homes, and mine was one of the first to be built. However, I bought it because my friend was building on that street.
oh, cool,
Little did I know that not only is one of my dearest friends 3 houses down from me now, that my other friend built on the end lot after I told her I bought there. And my other friend built across the street from me. They just moved in
oh
this
my
fall.
god,
So I
it's like,
live
yeah, the
on a
dream.
street. I live on a street with 3 friends, and all of their boys are my son's friends. It's
Oh,
incredible.
amazing, yeah, so
So I guess the message there would be don't give up on, even if you can't be with your family. Like the way I was with my oldest, he always had my
right,
sisters close by. Well, now, like, my kids don't have that, but they do
right,
have a support system, and I have a support system. Like,
right,
I have friends to grab a glass of wine with, or
mhm,
to help me get the kid. Like, my friend is picking up my son today from school and taking him home,
yeah,
so that that can be built. And sometimes we have to get creative and a little while and give it time. But I
sure,
think, yeah, yeah, like my sister used to always say, like, there are phases of life, and this one will pass,
right,
and then one will
right,
be a little easier, right? Like,
Yeah.
So those years when your kids are really little, or if you've had to move away from family, they are hard.
Yeah.
And it's okay to acknowledge that. And you take what you can get for self-care, but it does get better. And when opportunities arise, you got to take advantage of it.
Yeah,
Like
absolutely.
when
And the same
mine,
goes for the ambition too,
yeah.
like the care of it all. Like I think your story is so interesting because there's so many like chapters in your career journey. And I think some people are like, oh, like maybe it, like I say to my clients all the time, like it is so much about timing. And I think
Yeah.
that happened for me too, is like I was like, oh my God, I'm stuck at this job forever. Like I'm always going to feel burnt out and it's never going to get better. And then I just had my friend, closest best friend from college, was like, "Oh, my B practice is hiring therapists like remotely because of COVID times, like everybody was doing remote. And if you're licensed and if you're open, like you can take a few, you can see."
Yeah.
So it's would have never thought to be working in private practice like that until something like a door kind of opens. And sometimes it is like you have to bang down the doors and like really seek it out. But sometimes it's interesting how the universe kind of like presents you with things.
Yeah. Sometimes the door opens and you just have to walk through. And
Correct.
yeah,
Yeah.
I believe that firmly. I wish I could go back and tell 36-year-old me who was stepping away from what she thought she wanted. I wish I could tell her, like, it's gonna be okay. Like, your time is gonna
Yeah.
come. There's gonna be a time when
Right.
it's easier to do this, or it's all gonna come together. You can't even
Yeah.
imagine how that's gonna
Right.
look, but just because I think I struggled so much with the loss, I felt like I lost my identity when I lost
Sure.
my work. And I remember I would always introduce myself and I'd be like, well, I have a law degree or I am a lawyer, but I'm not practicing anymore.
Yeah.
I had my whole life tied up achievement and
Mm.
ambition into my identity. And then it felt like I had no ambition, I had no achievement anymore. It was just gone. So
Yeah.
I think when women go through career or big life transitions, like there often is a huge, deep identity shift happening. And for me, it felt
Mhm.
like identity theft almost. Like it was
Yeah.
very traumatic.
Right.
How do you support that? Like when you transition just from going from an agency to private
Yeah.
practice, like that's not as
Right.
dramatic of a shift, but it
Right. Right.
probably did have an impact. So,
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
yeah.
It is huge. First off, I think, when you become a mom, like that is such again, not to like single it out, but there is just like different brain things that happen when women have children
Yeah,
compared to the male counterparts and like
absolutely.
they're in raising children because your body physically changes. Like you're not the same person you once were. Like your
Yep.
brain functions differently, your body moves differently. It's just a wild ride to say the least, right?
Yeah,
So identity in that and then add on having a job. I mean, I think in some ways it's like, well, nothing matters. Like some people really take up like nothing matters now. Like I just want to be with my kid and
yep,
what that does to some of the times like the people around you and like how people that you swore were so almost like the opposite of you, people that swore that like they were always going to be a career person and like they would never change up their life for a kid, like they would make it work or like, oh no, I don't care what happens to my job. And like what that does to the people around you of just like, wait, what happened? Like, who are you now? Like, how are you? And I think that's jarring for the person inside. Of just like, I don't actually know. Because
yeah,
then you wrap up yourself and your children. And then it's like, they're in school and like you have all this downtime and it's like, well, now what have I become? Like,
right,
I know so many of my, in my community, we have a lot of people that are blessed to be stay-at-home moms, and some of them are just like, I want to do something with myself because I
right,
want to feel like valued.
right, right.
I think for stay-at-home, for that, like similar to your experience and mine as well, of just like, I don't want to be I never wanted to be a stay-at-home mom because I feel like I would be, I don't know, or just like lose my patience. Like that's just not my energy of like
Right.
what I wanted. But I also know that having a kid really kind of put it into context of just like there's so much to be worried about, like as
Mhm.
far as the world at large,
Yes.
and really just feeling like, how can I show up for them and be the best version of what they need? And then somehow still take care of myself. Like,
Yeah.
did I remember to shower today? Like, did I, there's so many little things that like when you're in the trenches of it all, it just feels like you don't know day from night, like in the early stages. So I guess all that to say is that I think the identity of it, I don't have a straight answer. Like the identity of it all, I think is a constant struggle because people are constantly evolving and changing. And that should be what happens. Like who you were when you were 30, it should not, you are at 40, should not be the same person you are at 50 because
Yeah.
you're allowed to change your mind and it's going to come at you differently. Opportunities are going to present themselves. And it's really about trying, like what I said before about prioritizing yourself is so important because if you don't know what you want, like how can you show up
Yep.
in all these spaces, you know?
Yep. I'm gonna put my hat on for a second.
Yeah.
I think that we don't talk about identity enough. Like, we need to label it.
Right.
We need to talk about it. We need to talk about the shifts that
Yeah.
are going to happen and what's happening to women. I'm gonna talk specifically about women now because so much of our life is taken over by motherhood in an
Yes.
instant.
Yeah. Right.
Our relationship has to shift, our focus
Mhm.
shifts, our priorities shift, and our identity has to shift. And most people, I believe, are not prepared for that. I do know people
Right.
who are very mindful about it and they're very aware that this is about to happen. And so they take the steps they need. But we don't talk about the identity shift enough. And we don't talk
Yeah.
about, I think, from a therapy perspective, through a therapy lens, we get in trouble. I got in trouble when I didn't know where my narrative was coming from. My 8-year-old
Sure.
self wrote that, right? Like in a very traumatic place when my parents were going through divorce.
Mhm.
Like I felt so attached to that identity as an ambitious overachiever because that was what I needed to feel safe when I was 8.
Yeah.
And so
Absolutely.
if we never talk about the narrative we have around our identity and we don't know where it came from, we can't adjust it at all.
Right.
I had never had therapy. I had no idea what was happening to me. I was losing my light, like really
Yeah.
hating my life in what was actually like a beautiful life. Like I had a
Yeah.
beautiful life, but I wasn't appreciating it because I was so hung up on losing my identity. But what
Yeah.
I
Sure.
wish that I could have offered to 36, 37, 38-year-old Leslie was kindness and compassion and saying, what identity are we attached to? Like,
Right.
why are we so attached to it? And then dissecting the trauma around what happened at that point in my life and what I watched my own mother go through for years
Right.
and why I latched onto that narrative so deep. It was for safety. So I
Yeah.
think from a therapist perspective, if we could help women identify the narrative and then help them understand like that it could change. We don't have to be attached to something that was formed. So many of us formed a life narrative really early on. Like
Yeah.
before, I always say like how crazy is it that at 40 something years old, I was letting an 8-year-old kind of run the show and dictate what was most important and what wasn't. Once I
Yeah.
recognized that, then I could be like, okay, we got to reparent, we got to work on the trauma, we got to work on all
Yeah.
the belief
Sure.
systems that were formed at that time. And
Right.
once that healing of those things occurred, I could move on. They still pop up. Like it's not a permanent fix. There's still
Right.
identity stuff always popping up, but we don't know
Right.
that we talk about it enough with women. We say we wear hats, we multitask, we pride ourselves
Right.
in being these martyrs who do all these
Yeah.
things. But
Absolutely.
it's a disservice to not talk about the fact that there are changes that have to happen if we choose to
Yeah.
if we choose motherhood
Right.
and that's okay. It's okay.
Mhm.
So
Absolutely.
Yeah. For somebody who's listening, who feels
Yes.
maybe stuck or overwhelmed or they're struggling with this of life, what's one thing that they could do like today to start shifting things for themselves?
Yeah. I would say that the best thing that you can do is take a minute to think about, like, ask themselves, like, if you knew that it was all going to be okay, like, what would be the next step you would take? So
Yeah.
is it, I don't know, like the next right step? I guess I'm in it in like the context of like a career shift of like talking to your partner about
Mm.
wanting a career shift
Yeah.
or being curious about what kind of roles are out there, whether it's within your job or outside of the world, or scheduling coffee with an old boss. Like, if you didn't have to worry about your whole world falling apart
Yeah.
because you took the shift and like everything's going to be different, but like take it back to like just a small like question, almost like a journal prompt of like, if I knew that like nothing was going to happen, like I am safe, my family is safe, what would be like one thing I'd be interested in exploring, right? And just trying to take it fear and the like pressure out of it, really trying to remove taking off of yourself.
Yeah.
So that would be more like the thing. When it comes to self-doubt and like mindset stuff and really giving back to yourself, it's like, what is it the mentality you want to have like going into today? Like,
Yeah.
can you offload something? Can you make sure that you have a mindset of, I'm not going to be perfect today, but I know that I am going to be present?
Yeah.
Or is it, and then just like letting that be it, right? It's something about like giving yourself a little goal. And then once you reach that goal, like that is really all that is expected of you. If all you did was like delegate a task, I know it sounds so silly, but truly,
Yeah.
if like all you did was say, I need some help with like this scheduling conflict, can you take care of it for me?
Yep.
And it gets taken care of, like, yay for you. Like, I love that for you, right? And really just trying to not be like, oh, that got taken care of. I think for high performing women or perfectionists, that it's not enough. Like, truly, like, I'm sure people would hear this and be like, rolling their eyes at me like, "Okay, Liz, like, that's great, like, but that's not gonna be what makes me feel better." But maybe it is, like, just the
Just for today.
asking
Yeah.
for today.
Yeah.
Like, it's not about how many things you can get done in a day, but if you always are the one holding all the things and you found a way to offload it to a friend that's gonna pick up your son from soccer practice, to your significant other that's gonna pick up, like, schedule the date night or whatever, that is just like, "Oh, I have a minute to just like sit with myself and not have to worry about getting to like 7 different directions."
Yes.
So yeah, that's
Yeah.
what I would say. Like just like a little mini move, like a little mini thought, like what could it look like? And then also, depending on where you're at in like the stage of life, the idea that if you just did like one little thing to make your to-do list lessened and give yourself back those minutes of time to think about what feels right for you.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so important because those little minutes really can open the door and give you
Yeah.
space to see what's in alignment and what's out of alignment. And
Right.
then each step of the way, like every time you step more into alignment or you have a realization of how you're out of alignment, you
Yeah.
increase the likelihood that you're going to be living more authentically, which is going to feel
Right.
better and is going to keep opening more space. Yeah, baby steps are just
Okay.
as good, if not better, than the big ones. I think we try to jump into these big self care programs and these
Right.
big, like, those have a lower success rate because in reality, we don't have time for them and they end up adding more burden to us. So those
Right.
small micro steps just give us space to see, oh, take a step back. Oh,
Right.
this area of my life doesn't feel very aligned. What can I do differently?
Right.
And I think it opens up the opportunity for the creativity and the curiosity and the compassion. So,
Mhm.
yeah.
Absolutely.
Awesome. So let's talk about how people can find you and your work.
Yeah.
I'm going to be listing it all in the show notes, but if you could share, like if someone this spoke to them and they really wanted to work with you and reach out, how would they find you?
Yeah, so I have an Instagram account that is Liz Bakshi Coaching. So that is my primary account. It does get leads to my therapy page, so not to confuse people, but for while I'm in the process of like building out my coaching business, I have to get some of the affairs in order and separate it all out. But I do have a website as well that's there. So it's a little my long is a little bit longer there. So it's Liz Rendy Bakshi. And my
Okay.
maiden name gets mixed in there a little bit. So lizrendybakshi.com is there as well. And then I'm on Facebook. That's where like I'm in this space to make a community. So like a Facebook group there that's called Working Moms Who Are Building Next. That is a private group. So if you were interested in seeking it out, my name on Facebook is Liz Rendy Bakshi, Rende, and then Bakshi. So you could always friend request me or DM me on Facebook. And if you're curious about the group and what we do there, it's really similar to this, like sharing information, providing value with different guides and tip sheets, as well as a community of women that are going through similar experiences. And then I have a program that I am building out of working one on one with women that would like to be coached on the situation. So
Great.
all that could be discussed through those avenues.
Wonderful. All of that information will be in the show notes on YouTube, Apple Podcast, and Spotify. So
So
thank you so much. This was a great conversation.
yeah,
I think it's really important. And yeah, so many things came up that I think
I
we
know.
just
Thank you.
don't
We
talk
went
enough
on
about.
some journey.
Yes, yes. Thank you for anybody who enjoyed this episode. Please subscribe to the channel, follow, make a comment, let me know what your thoughts are, and yeah, let us know where you are in this journey, in this process, and how we can help. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you so much, Lizzie.